Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 107 of the RRBG podcast. In this episode, I talked to Ashleigh and Colin of the band Tulip. They are a symphonic metal band based out of Dallas, Texas. We talked a little bit about their upcoming tour dates. We talked a bit about their upcoming full-length release and their already released EP. You should pick up now. Go to their website, wearetulip.com, or you can go to the official Bandcamp, wearetulip.bandcamp.com, to listen to the EP right now. I had a great time talking to them, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Please don't forget to follow them on social media, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Cheers. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RRBG podcast. I'm here with Ashleigh and Colin of the band Tulip. How are you doing today?
We're great.
Great, Eddie.
You guys are from Dallas, am I correct?
Yes.
Or were you in Dallas when I talked to you guys?
Yeah, no, that's where we live now. We grew up actually in Canada, in Toronto.
Okay.
But we recently relocated to the DFW area. So yeah, we're Texans now.
Nice. Why Dallas? What was the decision to go there?
Mostly work related. I work as an engineer in my full-time work, and so it's been mostly a transition to support my full-time job, which of course is not music at this point.
But also we know that Dallas and Texas in general has an awesome metal scene, so it's been a really exciting time for us down there.
That's cool. Yeah, I haven't really spent a lot of time in Dallas. I did a couple days there when I was still touring with my band, but usually when you hear of people moving into the States from Canada or something, they end up going to New York or LA, because that's
right.
Like the spots,
Yeah. No, I think Dallas we found is having a real, it's not a resurgence because it's always been pretty booming, but there are a lot of young people and artists and young families moving into the DFW area. And particularly Austin is obviously a huge draw for tech companies and stuff, but it's all spilling up to Dallas. So we're getting a lot of that as well, which is really great.
That's awesome. And I know that the South by Southwest is out there, right? Well, not in Dallas, but in Austin.
Austin. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's always been a really nice scene for bands and artists of all kinds of industry too. And so for people that aren't too familiar, Ashleigh, you are a opera singer.
Yeah, I was for about 10 years. I did a degree in opera at Northwestern, and then I toured all over, mostly the States and a little bit of Europe, singing opera. And then I had to stop because I had a couple of kids. And then Colin drew me into the metal world.
Yeah, because Colin, you were in Monolith, right?
Yeah, I've been in and out of different metal bands, for the better part of the last 10 years up in Toronto. Nothing too big, but just local bands. And the last project I was a part of was a band called Monolith, which was kind of a symphonic, death metal type thing, similar to Tulip, but a little maybe more aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that less melodic singing and more screaming.
Yeah.
So when I first when he kind of broached the topic of me joining or starting a metal project together, he played me a lot of the Monolith stuff, and it wasn't too far removed from what I experienced especially in neoclassicism and new classical works that was something that was sort of my bread and butter, kind of a niche that I carved out for myself in the classical world. I did kind of new symphonic works and new opera works. So the kind of dissonance, and also kind of the largeness of the scale that he made with Monolith, and then kind of wanted to transfer that into the Tulip sound I felt at home doing that. So that was good.
And the other way I tricked her was basically convincing her that metal was hip hop's angry cousin, because a lot of the newer contemporary metal stuff, for lack of a better term, gent type sound is very groove oriented. So I actually ended up playing Meshuggah for her, which she surprisingly loved, mostly because of the polyrhythm and the groove and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. So we're trying to infuse more of that type of groove oriented sound into the Tulip stuff as well.
Yeah, I have to be able to like move on stage and dance on stage and kind of bounce around, more of like a sporty Ginger type of vibe than the corsets and the hair flowing and the kind of vampirina stuff that's like kind of traditionally known for women in metal. So it's we're a lot more athletic up there, and so it's been a blast.
That's good, and I mean that definitely lends itself to a better show live, because
Mm-hmm.
I go to a lot of these shows, and I love all aspects of metal and rock and everything, and I can nerd out and just sit there and do mathematical equations while the band's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I also like to jump around and have fun.
Yes.
So I really do appreciate when there's groove involved, and that's something that like you said, the gent genre has brought forward, is like, here's a lot of technicality, but also jump around.
Let's bounce. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, Eddie, like I'm having to like be on a crash course to learn everything about metal, because it's a totally new space for me. But so Colin, in his genius, was like, let's go do as many shows as we can. So basically we started the project last September 2018, and we've been to, I'd say, almost a show every week or every other week, and we've been kind of all over the country. If we are in a city, we look to see if there's a show, and the people that I have loved the most have been that genty, like we just saw After the Burial, and they completely blew me away. Kill Switch, they were really fun.
Yeah, we listened to your
with Adam
EP5. So we saw them on
those same dates, and that was really great. And the Born of Osiris show was awesome.
Nice.
But yeah, there were some other bands, I'm not going to mention them to be shady, but that they were a little bit more, it was just kind of boring, and then they were technically so impressive, but there was,
you gravitated towards the good stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that I could really, enjoy that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of bands that I enjoy a lot, like, and I will name them. Between the Buried and Me. I love those dudes. I love those dudes, and we're all, I've befriended all of them. We're all, but they know. It's like, you have to concentrate when you're playing that insanity, and it doesn't really lend itself to a lot of jumping around.
Yeah, love listening to their record, love it, but it was like, okay, this is a bit more chill right now. Live.
Yeah. I mean, I think,
the crowd is also that way too with their music. Like, there's some moshing that goes on. Like, I've definitely moshed to some Between the Buried and Me, but mostly people are just there stoned, kind of trying to figure out what they're doing with their fingers,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's kind of what you have to do is go to a lot of shows and kind of see what it is that's drawing people. And obviously I'm not saying that you should be catering your music to a specific, audience or anything like that, but it's important when you're trying to make something work to be in tune, or at least have the finger on the pulse,
Yeah. I think too that the beauty of metal is that it is so eclectic, right? I mean, compared to other more narrow genres of music, metal, you can get away with anything from, like deathcore to the sort of more European symphonic stuff. We love all of Devin Townsend's work now, which is a bit more on the progressive
I'm obsessed
side.
with him.
So, you can really, push the experience to completely different ends of the spectrum when you're writing metal. And I think that helps, certainly when you're transitioning into the space, that there's a lot of options, for lack of a better term, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the band Tulip is you two primarily, and you bring on musicians for tour and stuff like that?
Kind of. So we're married, and we write everything together. Colin does the majority of the sonic landscape for me in MIDI, and he does all the guitar tracking and drum track and everything, and then I will record vocals and lyrics over top of that. And but no, we have steady members of the permanent members. It's our guitarist is Brandon White. He was formerly in the band Oni, and Pomegranate Tiger, and then our drummer Ryan Claxton. And he's been in probably bands I don't know the names of right now.
He's a bit of a like Instagram drum
celebrity.
Yeah,
he's
minor
like a
celebrity.
social media drum star.
Yeah, as a group, we're functioning like a real band, but Ashleigh and I take care of the writing.
Yeah.
I see. And then moving forward, as the band picks up momentum, is that something that when because you only have an EP right now, so when the full length time comes around, are you planning on letting them throw in some input, or is it just going to be here's what we're doing, and obviously learn it and maybe add some flair to it?
Yeah, so the full length is actually written at this point, and it's sort of mostly demoed, I would say.
Yeah.
So certainly the other guys are going to contribute. I would say Ryan probably will most likely play the parts the way they've been written, but then, yeah, to your point, he'll add his own sort of, tasteful expression on top of that. And then Brandon, because he's a pretty virtuosic player, he's gonna do a couple of ridiculous solos here and there, which will be up to his discretion how he wants to write them. But yeah, it's mostly done at this point. It's just a matter of getting everything recorded over the next couple of months. So right now we're planning to have that ready by the fall of this year, but it's just it's a little slow going with everybody's complicated schedules, and we can't discuss it in detail, but we do have some tour dates lined up throughout the summer as well. So we should,
nice.
Yeah, we're focusing on that, and we should be able to disclose those
soon.
Yeah, maybe within
the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, keep an eye on your social medias for those dates, I'm sure. Let me ask you this, and since you can't really tell me who you're going on tour with, but if you could fantasize a tour package, what would that look like for you guys?
It's a good question. I mean, we always feel like our music walks sort of a very fine line between being, instrumentally very heavy, but also incredibly accessible because of Ashleigh's vocal. And, like we had said, lately we've been really into Devin Townsend's work because it sort of meets the same criteria where you can, Strapping Young Lad was really heavy, but even with the newer stuff, you can rock out, you can mosh a bit to that type of music, but then he also plays like theaters where people are seated, to us, that would be a really good fit. But then, beyond that, it's like, I am always,
and I'm like really, I'm trying to put this like the most polite way. I'm a bit of a vocal snob, so I'm really gravitate toward women, especially, and men too that can sing. But the women that are really just amazing live singers, like Noor from Battle Beast, she's just like blows me away, and I think that's how you say her name. And and I think Eliza Ride is awesome from Amaranth. And of course, like Tatiana from Ginger. She's pretty amazing. So
I recently discovered them, by the way. Like, I had not heard of that band. I mean, I heard the name around. Yeah. I've seen it on like metal websites and stuff, but I never actually sat down and watched them. And I saw them perform in Spain somewhere, and I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah. I know.
That's great.
So for me, I would love to meet. I know there aren't a lot of women in this community, and even going to these shows, there's like it's 90% men or something. So I feel like there's a real camaraderie with the girls, and so I would like to kind of like, and even in Dallas, we've met some other female-fronted bands that we did a show with recently, and it was really cool for me because I think you have to really know what you're doing to sing over this kind of music and the sheer like volume of it. So. I'm kind of excited about doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's great, and I don't know why, but usually when I think opera, I think a female singer. I know that there's obviously famous operatic male vocalists out there, but I always think the most beautiful operas to be female fronted, and so having that background to lend itself to the symphonic metal and everything, I think it's a perfect fit.
Yeah, thanks. It's interesting because I could do like a Nightwish type of thing and sing kind of like ethereally and up here and like do all that stuff. But I don't want to do that. So it's just, I feel like the style, the content we're writing about, it lends itself to a little bit more heat in my vocals and a lot more belting. So I've been working with Melissa Cross to,
Nice.
work that all out. And she's been a real big supporter of mine. And she's been helping me bridge the gap between the head voice and the chest voice. And she's even trying to get some growling in there. I haven't been successful yet, but we're working on it.
Oh, she'll get you there.
Yeah.
I know she's really good at that. I've never personally met her, but I definitely watched her videos to assist me when I was on tour all the time, because it's when you're belting stuff like that out every night on tour. I mean, after a week or so, it starts wearing on you.
Yeah.
If you're not taking care of it.
So Eddie,
properly.
were you a vocalist as well?
I was.
Okay, cool.
I sang in a band for about 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And it was great for the time. We did a lot of touring. We released a couple albums and all that, and then everybody kind of just moved to different states and started doing adult stuff.
Yeah.
Having children and getting married and all that. So.
Yeah.
But that's really cool. I mean, I find it awesome that you're married. You guys are married and you're working on music together. I think that's a beautiful thing. And there's a couple of couples that I know, like Spotlights that also does that, and Spirit Box is another one that they're kind of more in the
And they're Canadian too, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I had Courtney on. I'm trying to get her and Mike on together, but that's another day.
Yeah.
But so I wanted to ask you. I saw your video for the Total.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And really high budget, or at least it seems high budget. Like, it seems like a quality video. Is that something that you guys put on yourself and funded it yourself, or is there a label involved helping you guys out?
Yeah, we're basically self-funding everything at this point. And to your, what you had mentioned about adult life, we are in our early 30s, so we're in a position to do some of that right now. And just the way that the industry is these days with the internet, it's sort of like, it doesn't seem like there's a strong incentive to have a label, at least early on. So we've been doing most of that ourselves. Also, when it comes to the production and recording and mixing and all that, I take care of that as well. And I've done some smaller projects as a record and mix engineer as well. So that really helps cut down on the overhead. So yeah, we've been able to do most of that ourselves. And the folks that did the video for us are called The Trenches Media. And they're actually based in Toronto. We did it here in Canada, but it was a lot of fun. A lot of set design type stuff, that going to Lowe's and buying like 600 plants.
and the child actor is our actual daughter, so that helps too. Nice. We didn't have to hire a child, so that's why she looks so much like me.
That's great. Yeah, I was wondering. I'm like, man, I wonder if they're related.
Yes, that's our daughter Greta. So
that's great.
Yeah, we shot it over one day, and we kind of kept the concept fairly loose, but it was meant to represent me as a child, and the entire EP is very personal. We came out of we have kind of a intense backstory. We came out of very religious families and a strict evangelical background, which we've now walked away from for the most part. And it was we had a very painful couple of years kind of getting there, but because of the music, we've been able to use it to be sort of like a vehicle for healing and to reach out to other people that might be trying to get out of this same lifestyle. So that's what the video is loosely meant to represent. So hopefully that was mostly clear.
And also just a lot of plants.
Yeah.
From Lowe's.
Yeah, 1 million IKEA mirrors.
Fern Gully.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I read some of that in the bio that Raquel sent me, that you guys were having a lot of issues with the church. And is that so? Now you mentioned that you've walked away from that lifestyle. Is that something that you still practice at home in your own way, or have you completely just turned around on your thoughts of that?
Yeah, I mean, not to get too heavy and what should otherwise be a fun interview, but we definitely, we think that there is certainly mystery to the universe, and I think that there's a lot that's unexplainable. I mean, even as an engineer, I have a fairly analytical, scientific mind, but there's just a lot of high strangeness, we'll call it, in the world. So I wouldn't say that we're completely against the idea of theism or God or any of that type of stuff, but the apparatus of the church is something that's been problematic for us, and I don't think that that's a blanket statement. I think there's a lot of good that the church does in different capacities, but for us it's become more of an area of criticism in our lives, and that's something that we're still working through personally. So there isn't a strong concrete answer there for you, but that's part of what the music is about.
We're just still working through it, and and trying to heal from kind of what was pretty traumatic experience on our part. So
like Ashleigh was excommunicated from the church, so as far as church theological kind of dogma goes, she was on the receiving end of some pretty ruthless stuff. Which, it's a shame, but today I think things are much better, and our kids are happy, and we're happy, and
we made the right choice.
There are people that go through much worse, I'm sure.
Of course,
but yeah.
No, I agree. I bring it up not to get heavy or anything like that. I mean, I as well. I was raised in that super strict, private school, very Christian. I couldn't listen to any kind. Actually, that's what drove me to metal, was the fact that they were telling me no.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I remember walking down the street and I saw someone was wearing a shirt. It had like I think it was King Diamond, and the other dude had a Marilyn Manson shirt on.
Right.
And my family was like, "Oh, don't look at that. Don't even look at it. Don't even pay attention to that." And then I'm like, "Well, of course I'm going to go do that." What are you talking about?
Yes.
That looks so interesting. I must know.
Yeah, and of course, all of these guys are so sophisticated too, right? There's this sense that metal people, and you mentioned Marilyn Manson, like, it's all shock value and there's no substance there, but actually it's pretty there's a certain level of brilliance that's required to capture people's attention that way. And then when you see him in interviews, or a lot of even the guys that you have on your show, like, everybody's articulate and kind, and that's another sort of like red herring in the whole anti-metal kind of Christian position, which is that the people in this community are very bright people.
Oh yeah, I have to say, like, as a newbie to the community, I have never met more warm, like you said, intelligent, kind, just salt of the earth people than I have in the metal community. I've just been completely welcomed with open arms. Whereas, like, I mean, I don't mean to shit on classical music, but like, that whole world is very stuffy. It's very insular.
It's okay to say nerdy. It's okay to say nerdy.
It's not. I mean, it totally is, but it's also very posh and
very pretentious.
And I never felt comfortable in that community. I could put it on. I could get dressed up just as nicely as everybody else could and drink champagne and go to the Met. But it was just, at the end of the day, the conversations were very superficial, and like, you sit with anyone that plays in any of these bands, and they just like their stories are always so amazing, and just people are open and vulnerable, and just I've just been so impressed with everyone. I've yet to meet someone that has been rude to me. It's been amazing. Yeah.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with the fact that metal music is kind of like it's an outlet. And a lot of folks that deny themselves that kind of outlet end up very repressed and very, like, they're holding stuff back, and they're angry all the time, and they don't even understand it themselves.
Judgmental.
They're judgmental, and they don't even get their emotions. Are just like, I know I'm angry. I don't know what, and I'm just going to point fingers and make it about that. And even though it's not about that, it's about you.
Yes.
Totally. And with metal and rock and all of that, you get to express yourself and release that kind of anger and stress, and and that's what makes you a more peaceful person when you're off stage, when you're just hanging out or having a conversation.
Yeah.
But I get it. I mean, a lot of people, they see it from the outside and they just immediately assume, this evil, satanic kind of, like my family was the same way. When I started leaning more towards that world, it was like, oh my God, you're possessed.
Yes.
We need to give you like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Oh, my mother tried to tried to exorcise me too. Trust me. So I've been there with the possession accusations. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're acclimating to the scene and they're accepting. It's a very rough, especially with metal too. It tends to kind of be a rough boys club kind of a deal, like you mentioned. There has been a growth and an increase in female fronted bands as well that are actually doing something that's of substance. Because a lot of it, there's always been female fronted bands, but it almost feels fake or just kind of like they're selling sexuality. And I did not get that vibe at all from your video. Like, it wasn't about that. It was about the music and the story you guys were telling, which I appreciate.
It's hard not for Ashleigh it's hard for Ashleigh not to look pretty, right? So that's obviously that's one little problem we have. But no, we don't take ourselves too seriously. And I think in the spirit of what Ashleigh had mentioned before about just we have more of an athletic expression, and I don't think
it's very American.
Yeah.
Even though the sound is a bit more European, it's I'm not doing the corsets and not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just that's just not who I am. So the more crossover-y, bouncy, gent, I guess, is just the word that keeps coming up.
Progressive.
Right?
Yeah. Well, that's good. And you did mention it has a European sound. It definitely does. Like, to me, the symphonic metal does lend itself more for a European audience. So with the upcoming full length and everything like that's coming and future tour dates, how do you guys manage that? You mentioned you have children, obviously your daughter being in the video. You had 2 children, you said?
Okay, so we're a blended family. And so I have 3 children from my first marriage, and Colin has 1 daughter. So we have twin boys who are 6, and then almost like twin girls. His daughter is almost 4, and my daughter's almost 4. So it's like we have 2 sets of twins. So, one of the upsides to getting divorced is that they have time with their other parents. So we do have time away from them, and they do have caregivers that can help us out when we need to be on the road. We would love to bring them with us everywhere we go, but maybe in the future we can do that.
Yeah, I think from a recording perspective, it's easy for us to make time because we do everything in-house, right? I mean, we can chip away at a full length, and just whenever we have a couple of hours free, I can track some guitars and Ashleigh can do some vocals, and so that part is easy. But yeah, the touring component is always going to be a little like we can't be one of those bands that's on the road for 8 to 9 months at a time. But that said, I mean, certainly the opportunities that we're looking at presently don't necessarily require that, and I think as long as the product is good, which I think, I mean, biased, but I think that the full length is going to just blow the EP out of the water. Hopefully we can make that work, and just do some short legs here and there supporting other bigger bands until we have enough of a critical mass that the rest sort of takes care of itself. But
and festivals and all that stuff. So we just make it work. We just have to be very organized, Eddie.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I appreciate the bands that it's a double-edged sword, because you have bands that are on tour nonstop, like Killswitch that we mentioned earlier.
Totally.
I give him crap because it's like, man, when are you going to just chill at home so we can hang out?
Yeah.
But that's important. You need to stay relevant. You need to go see your fans all over the world, all of that. But I think it also creates a sense of, I guess, demand when you don't tour all the time. People get excited and actually leave the house to go see you if you're only going to be there once every few years or something, or once a couple years,
Yeah. I think also just within the US, it's just so much easier. And so we're kind of like we're open to anything really at this point. If it's just like going overseas, which is going to require like a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and that's that paperwork and
the
everything.
gear and the exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Very cool. And you already answered fantasy tour type of deal, but since you guys are together, what do you do when you're on the road? I know that you haven't really gotten a chance to do that together, but is there any plans? Like, are you gonna go find certain things in different towns that you want to go do together, or is it more of like just kind of do the show, go on to the next city, not worry about that?
Well, in my case, because of my work, I have to travel a lot anyways. I work for FedEx indirectly. So basically I'm around, all over the US working on different warehousing projects. So it's been nice that, Ashleigh's been able to come with me on a lot of those short trips. And that's part of how we've been able to see so many shows in the last couple of years.
Nice.
But yeah, and as far as traveling goes, we travel really well together. And I think, in this situation, our focus will be mostly just on the music. And, we'll probably still end up spending some time sightseeing and that kind of stuff. But
yeah, we're into like hilarious stuff. So like when we got married, we just eloped actually in Marfa, Texas. So we went out there and then we did a road trip and we made sure we stopped in Roswell because we're like super into aliens and all and like extraterrestrial, all that stuff. And which was like a little bit underwhelming, to be honest, but it was just still kind of cool to be able to go there. And so we like to find the like real Americana cities, not necessarily the big splashy touristy things, but to find like what locals are really doing and what is special about, like a place like Idaho or something like that. We've spent a lot of time in Memphis recently, and just like there's this local sandwich place that we're just like obsessed with, and we make sure we go there every time. And shout out to Lost Tortuga, guys.
Plug.
And just that's kind of what we do. We just nothing too fancy, but in each city we try and find like what the heart of what's actually going on with the community is. So
yeah, and that's important. I think that that's something that's also lacking from a lot of folks that try to restrict you, like religious folk that don't really travel a lot and don't really see the other parts of the world. Like I have a lot of friends that they'll come at me with certain things. I'm like, guys, you don't understand how the rest of the world works. You've never left Florida. You don't even know how that works.
Right.
And it's so important to bring in different parts of different cultures, even if it's a small thing, like you said, just a sandwich shop.
Yeah.
Or, Roswell, like you said, I've been wanting to go, but I just feel like I'm going to go and it's just going to be a big desert and there's going to be stands selling alien jerky. And I mean, I already get that from Vegas.
Oh yeah. It's actually like nothing like Vegas at all. It's like tiny.
Yeah. It's like a small, like middle American town. That's basically a ghost town with 3, like storefronts that have like, alien paraphernalia that's been imported from China. That's basically all.
And there's like the alien museum is like an 8th grade science fair project. It's like Bristol board and people like they've printed it out like on a printer and then like glued it with a glue stick.
So in other words, it's totally worth it.
But it's kind of worth it because it's $5 and it's like it's worth it because you're like this is happening right now. Like this is real. This is somebody's job to own this museum and try and get people to go. I think that when they have the festival, it's a bigger deal, but I think that only happens like once a year. So.
We got some good pictures out of it.
Oh yeah. Amazing pictures.
That's awesome. I love little ghost towns like that.
Yeah.
There's one on the way to Vegas from LA that I usually stop in just to get gas and walk around a little bit. And,
which one? Because I think we might have we went to a couple.
Well, I don't
remember. You don't remember what it's called? Yeah,
I don't remember.
But there's so many good ones. Like when we were driving out to Vegas from LA State, we stopped at this tiny like little taqueria, and it was so good. It was
Yeah, there's a lot of that, and on the way to Vegas from LA, there's a lot of little things. Like there's Eddie's World, which it's just a big old gas station, but it's like now become like I have to stop there on the way.
Right.
Exactly. It's my world, and there's a giant ice cream cone.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. That's great. Now, one last thing I wanted to ask you about opera music. So, if you wanted to recommend some operatic listening to someone who's not into opera, someone who's into more metal or rock or something like that, and you want to like blow them away, like what would you show them?
Okay, well, I would probably, for somebody that likes things that are a little bit more melodic and beautiful, but still very heavy, I would steer them toward Verdi. So I'd steer them toward La Traviata. That's personally my favorite opera. So that would be kind of like maybe like a Devin Townsend type of sound. Like there's a lot of major in it, but there's also a lot of beautiful sad chords, and it's a gorgeous story. It's the opera that actually they go to in Pretty Woman. I don't know if you remember when they go see that.
Okay.
That's because it's a mirrored story. It's about a courtesan. Well, that's the nice word for a lady of the night, and who falls in love with So that's a great one, and I would say listen to Anna Moffo singing that role. That she was actually my former teacher before she passed away, and so that would be a great one. I would also say, like, for people that like more like animals as leaders, I would steer them more towards Strauss. So Der Rosenkavalier is another one that's a very, very special opera. It's large and like the orchestra's huge, but there's also really beautiful quiet moments. But then if you want to get like really, weird, you can listen to, oh gosh, any like Benjamin Britten. Actually, my favorite opera is called The Rape of Lucretia, which is a kind of aggressive title, but it's, I'd say, the most like a dissonant metal song. It's kind of this it's in English. The content is obviously real heavy, but it's an amazing show. So those would be my top 3 listening ones.
Very awesome. Yeah, I try to let people know that I have friends that that don't listen to metal, that they only listen to whatever's on the radio, and a lot of them listen to classical music like Mozart and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to explain it to them, like, if you listen,
totally,
if you break down things like Animals as Leaders or The Human Abstract, stuff like that, it's classical music. It's just
totally,
it's got some distorted guitars and some screaming on it.
Yeah. Well, I think you mentioned that I think Tosin went to Juilliard even for
A bunch of those guys came out of
or Berkeley or and so they would all have had to have done all those years of schooling, same as I did. So to become, and that's the other thing that really drew me into this community, was that when Colin started taking me to these shows and I'm listening to these guys play their guitar, it's just like watching a violin solo at the symphony. It's just as impressive. It's incredible. The level of talent and the drumming. Who was the guy that the drummer that I love from Thomas?
Thomas, yeah, from Meshuggah.
Okay, that guy. And the Eamon Amarth drummer I love too.
Just gonna basically list every metal band that's popular right now.
Well, but there are some that really stick out to me as really classically, really well trained, and it's just this. And I've actually spoken to a lot of my opera friends that are trying to now do what you're trying to do. Is I'm trying to get them into metal, and they get it because they're like, wow, listen to this solo. I mean, even if they just took 1 year of classical guitar, they can understand that this is really virtuosic and impressive. And even the keyboardists, like everyone has to work together and be completely and utterly in sync at all times. And that's the same thing as an orchestra. So I don't know. It's just, I think the two worlds work very well together.
For sure. And then, it requires so much talent. And if I'm reading this correctly, you guys don't use any kind of backup tracks, or you're not using auto tuning or anything like that for your vocals. So like it takes a lot of talent and a lot of work to get it down without the use of some assistance. Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with layering certain things in your music live, but it definitely has a different feel when you're going out there and doing it.
The orchestrations will be on a track, so that naturally we can't bring a 100-piece orchestra.
Why not?
Yet,
but we're working on it, Eddie.
Well, I'm not going to come out unless there's 160 people on stage.
But so that's right. But I know I'm very particularly about making sure that I can sing everything live. And listen, I'm going to miss notes, same as anybody does, same as people do in the opera. But at least that's a real experience that someone's having at the same time as me. And
sure,
I'm really leaving it all out there. So
yeah, I prefer that. I prefer seeing that there's humanity behind it.
Me
Other
too.
than, it's like, and even certain bands that are that good, it still bothers me. Like I saw Muse live a few years back, and they were so perfect live that I got upset.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this crap? I didn't
Make
come
some
out here to listen to a
mistakes.
record.
Yeah, I know.
A-holes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's awesome. So I commend you guys for doing that. I commend you for being open-minded to joining the metal community and getting out of that world that, restriction and oppression that you come from, and being open-minded to that and actually sharing it with friends and trying to just, explore that artistic realm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it's about. We've actually said this before, and to people that are talking to us about working with us, and we don't actually care that much about really making a ton of money doing this or like being famous. We actually just wanted to have a project that we could work on together because we're romantically involved, and that was a nice idea. And also we are both artists and we love to create, and it's great that we can do it together, and that we have these other two guys in the band who are also real artists, and they're on the same page as us. That's the goal for us.
Well, that's fantastic. I appreciate you guys taking some time to talk to me today. Where can people go to get all of the news coming up for the full length? Where can they pick up the EP, and where can they wait for the tour dates?
Yeah, so the easiest thing to do if you're trying to find information out about the band is just to go to our website, because everything is there. So it's wearetulip.com, really simple, and you can link through to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you need, as well as all of the streaming services. So the EP's on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Play, like everywhere, right? So there's also a bunch of embedded video links on the site that it just helps to get all the content in front of you quickly if you need it.
Yeah, we have we have a new video coming out hopefully in the end of next week for Limited, which is going to be cool. It stars real classical ballerinas, which is going to be kind of a nice, fun thing for us to throw into the metal space. And and then we should be announcing our tour dates very soon.
Very cool. And as a word of advice for anyone looking it up, I YouTubed Tulip Band. And there's another band that's calling themselves a local hardcore synth grind band. That is not the band.
That's not us. No.
That is not the band. You're looking for symphonic metal with female fronted vocals.
That's us. Yes.
Yeah. Very well. Awesome. Thanks again for taking time to talk to me today. And please check out the music online. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I highly recommend you guys pick up the EP.
Thanks, Andy.
And I'm looking forward to hearing the full length when you guys put it out.
Yeah, and we are doing a date in the LA area, so we'll have to make sure you get to it. We'll let you know as soon as we can.
For sure.
Yeah,
I'll
we'll
definitely
hang
come out.
Yeah.
Oh, one thing. So when we do hang out, do I bring beer?
Yeah.
I forgot to bring up beer. I'm trying to steer away from that a little bit. The podcast has been I've been trying to just make it about the art, not about the beer.
Yeah,
like
but
it used to
be. Yeah.
But I still like to bring it up. You guys drink beer?
Well, I grew up in a tradition where I wasn't allowed to drink beer. So as a result, I'm not much of a beer connoisseur, but I will have one with you.
Yes. I'm more of a wine kind of girl, but I will also have a beer.
I have some beers that taste like wine.
Perfect.
There you go.
I'm in.
Very cool. I'll bring you guys some beers for the LA show, and hopefully we'll hang out soon. Thanks again.
Great.
Thanks, Eddie.
All right. Cheers.
Take
care.
Bye.
You can't escape it, this total deprived.